Hello there, and welcome to the English Language Club. It's Tuesday, so it's time for our club hangout. My name is Colin Munro, and this is this is Tony Cooper.
Good to be here.
It's only the second week we've been using this software, so we're still getting a little bit used to it. But yeah, we've got some regulars and some new people, I believe, in the chat. We've got Mohammed Adel says hello to you. Lolly, one of our regulars. Siham El Hout from Morocco. Sumera, hi there, Sumera, and Gaspar, and a few other people. So Fam and Taki Imam. And Zari Belkacem, hello. And Gabby just joined us from Argentina. Hello to all of you. Hello. Hope you are looking forward to today. We've only got one question so far, so keep the questions coming in. So yeah, this was kind of we weren't sure whether we were going to do a live stream today. We had said that from now on, from till the end of the year, we might do them each week. We might not. It depends on some other factors. Things are going to get busy for me with some other things, but we'll do it when we can. So I created the stream just last night, so I'm glad you all saw it and are here. Also, Tony's had some internet problems, but I guess we don't need to go into that. Okay, shall we start with the first question?
Yes. Sure. Do we want to talk about what questions we were hoping to talk about today, or just go?
Go for it. Yeah.
So one of the things we're doing, we're very close to finishing to getting the Inside English course ready to launch. I'm sure there's several of you who are very excited about it. We are certainly very excited about it. Yes. And so one of the things we wanted to throw out there is if any of you have any examples of sentences where you think the tense is confusing or you're not sure which tense is appropriate in that situation. So if you have any sentences that you can throw out there in the chat that are, where the tense is confusing or you're not sure what tense to use, or why that tense is right, that'd be great. We'll talk about those, and maybe your examples will show up as an example in some of the extra materials in the course.
Yes. Yeah, it's always good if you can give us an example. Sometimes we get some comments with people just sort of talking about grammatical terms, and it's not always easy to understand what the question is. But if you can give an example, that's always really helpful. Mm-hmm. Okay, so not sure. We have got a question from Lolly already.
We've got a question from Lolly. We've got a couple of questions from Susanta and a question from Taki Imam. So we've got a few. The first one is from Lolly, one of our members, of course. The question is, please.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to bring that up on the screen, unfortunately, because of I think it was very early. So yeah, can we just read that out?
So the question was, please, could you tell me the difference between thief, mugger, robber, and burglar? Thank you. So this is an interesting one. I'm not sure how often this comes up for most people. Colin, how often does the difference between these words mean anything particular to you? I mean, I do. I know the difference.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously they're all similar meaning. And yeah, you would use some of the words in certain situations. So I think thief.
Well, maybe because I know the technical differences between them. Are you? Did I lose you? Did I get lost?
I don't think so. No.
The technical difference is actually quite simple. Theft is where you steal something from somebody without threatening them. So like you pick their pocket or shoplifting, you don't do anything to the person. Mugging is where you actually threaten them, either with a weapon or with some other kind of threats. And then that's also the same difference with robbery and burglary, except that it happens in someone's in a place as opposed to just out somewhere. Robbery is where you go into someone's home or business and you threaten them with a weapon and you take their stuff, whereas burglary is where you sneak in and you take stuff without anybody knowing. So theft and mugging are a pair that represent, out in the world, and robbery and burglary is like in their home or in their shop. And they're both a pair that involves, violence or at least threats. That's mugging and robbing, or no violence, which is theft or burglary.
Yeah, I was thinking in terms of the meaning, robber and burglar are very, very similar, except the fact that the object of rob, you would rob a person. So what somebody steals, you're stealing from the person, right? But burglar, you would burgle a building.
Actually,
right?
no. So robbing and burgling both refer to either a person or a place. Mugging also does, but technically it can only refer to a person, since it's only referring to someone that's not in a specific place. The only one of those that refers to the object you're stealing is theft. Like you steal an object, but you rob a person. You don't rob the thing that you're taking. But robbery and burglary can refer to the person or the place. Mugging only refers to the person. Theft refers to the thing you're stealing.
Right.
Yeah. So that steal or thieve, technically thieve is a verb, but it's never really used. So, stealing something or being a thief is the only thing that kind of refers to the thing you are stealing. Yeah. So you wouldn't steal a store. You would rob a store or burgle a store.
Yeah. Okay. I hope that's helpful. I think we may have given too much information maybe there. Do you want to quickly summarize?
So I think the summary is that these words all mean to steal, but they're all slightly different in their use. A thief, you talk about they're stealing a thing. A mugger is someone who uses violence against someone when they're out. Robbery is when you steal something by violence and go into their place, like into their home or into their shop. And burglary is where you steal something from someone's home or shop without using violence. You sneak in. So a burglar is a sneak. A robber uses violence. A mugger also uses violence. And a thief is just kind of generic.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Thank you for that. Let's see. What's the next question?
So Taki Imam, do you have that one to be able to pull up?
This one, there is no option but to study. What are but and to here, please? Right. But to study. There is no option but to study.
I wonder if what Taki Imam's question is pertaining to the parts of speech. Like, is this for a test or something like that? The tricky part here is this is a shortened form. Let me give you the long form of the sentence form. There is no option except for the option to study, right? So to study is the infinitive. It's talking about the act of studying. And but is used, it's a conjunction, but here it's being used instead of the word except, because but sometimes means the same thing as except.
Yeah. So, and then that's just to study. That's really the to is part of the to infinitive or the infinitive.
So is that to technically, or sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so to, it's not really right to ask about the to separately because it's part of the verb in this sentence.
If the question was like what part of speech is to a particle, I believe. Because it's not being used here as a preposition. I think it's a particle, like the word that goes before the to part of the infinitive might.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think it's not really part of the, So grammar is confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, so if your question is specifically referring to the parts of speech, then it's a conjunction and a particle. But generally what it's for is but is being used here instead of except. And to is just part of the infinitive. To study means, the act of studying. Yeah, so that's a good question. There's no option but to. Like using but to is kind of an idiom. It's a shortened form of a sentence. It doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense by itself. If you replace but with except, maybe it makes a little more sense. There's no option except to study. But it's not super common to say but to, but that's what it means.
Yeah, I think that's what I would say. Okay, got a question here from Susanta. She says, "What's pull together all the threads mean?" Pull together all the threads. So I feel like there's a kind of wider metaphor here with threads. Threads is used a lot.
Yes.
So I guess it depends on the context as well.
Well, I mean, threads always, in the metaphor for threads, they all represent different lines, like different lines of reasoning or different lines of conversation or different lines of history.
Or different jobs that need to be done in a certain project.
Yes. Yeah. The different steps in a project that aren't necessarily done one at a time, but they all have to be done at the same time. And then pulling the threads all together at the end means bringing it all together and combining it into one whole. Like when you take a bunch of individual threads and you spin them together to make yarn.
Yeah. So that's, I think, what it comes down to is, threads in this metaphor it means different parts of the same thing. Things that come together to be more of the same, to be more than the sum of its parts. So to pull all the threads together means to bring different parts into one thing and kind of create something new from different parts.
Yes, and we use this a lot when talking about projects or our arguments. Like if you're for instance, you'll hear this maybe on the news. They might be talking about a bunch of different things related to a single topic, like an election or something like that. And then at the end they'll say, "So let's pull all these threads together. What does this mean?" And then they'll give you kind of the result of all that. It does mean to try to understand, but it means to take all of these individual things and understand what they mean as a whole, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good.
Yeah. So it in itself doesn't mean trying to understand, but by bringing the things together, you can understand. Yeah.
It's talking about bringing things together, but we often do that for
Yeah. Great. Okay. Susanta again says, "You guys have it all" means what? You guys have it all. I guess. It's a more kind of need more context because it could mean. Because it's quite literal, really.
Well, have it all is also a very common idiom for someone who is well off or has a lot of good things in their life. Someone might look at another person and say, "Oh, they have a great career, their family's going well," and you say they have it all. It just means someone is like you're really impressed by their life and all the different things.
Yeah. Okay, let's see then. Santa says, "What's the odd mean?" Do you mean like what are the odds? Because then it's that's an expression referring to probability, and so what it's like saying what is the chance of that happening? What are the odds that it will rain today? You could say so. Yeah, it's referring to mathematical probability in a way. Is that what you mean? I'm not sure that's what you meant. Let us know. Lots more here. So what's regulatory policy? Regulatory policy. Is this election speak?
Sorry?
Maybe? I'm saying, is this election speak? I know that Susanta often gets stuff from the news.
Yes. So this can mean one of two things. The regulatory, your regulatory policy could either be your policy on regulation, like what you think, how much regulation you should think there should be, what things should be regulated. But it can also refer to a specific aspect of that. So for instance, how you regulate, say, wind power would be a regulatory policy. How you regulate international trade would be a regulatory policy. So it can either refer to how you feel about regulation in general or or the specific policy on a specific thing. It is politics and economics. So it does come up in the context of elections for sure. Susanta she says that the question, "What's the odd?" was was the question as it was. The only thing I can think of is you often hear the odd then followed by something. Although I have heard it without, to represent the thing that doesn't fit. So you might hear the odd man out, the odd duck, the odd something.
The odd
And
number.
it either means the thing that doesn't fit, or it just means occasionally, like the odd time. You know, we usually we eat at this restaurant, but the odd time we eat at that restaurant. It just to show something that is not regular but happens sometimes.
Great. Okay, now I should have mentioned, actually, like last week, we are also live on Facebook. So if you are watching on Facebook as well, hello to you. And we've got a question here from Rio. It says, excuse me, I want to ask how to improve our skill in English with good methods. Thanks. So, well, what have you got? Any good tips for improving English skills? I mean, obviously, that's a very broad question. There's so many things. I mean, you know, watching live streams like this, getting involved. You know, everything we do at the English Language Club is all about helping people to learn English. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up so that you see more of it. And subscribe on YouTube. And yeah, like you've done, send us messages to ask us questions. I know that people who are here, I think what Susanna does is she writes down questions for us during the week, and then when it comes to our live streams, she always has plenty of questions for us, which is great. So yeah, you could do that. You just have to keep at it, I suppose. You have to be patient and perseverant, and you have to have patience and perseverance. That would be my main tips. If anyone else has any other tips, that would be great. If you can let us know, what are the things you found really helpful? Yeah. So let's see. AJ's got something here. He says it's just quite topical, but it's also, we were asking for grammar questions or about tenses. He says, do you go voted or go vote or will go vote? So yeah, because it's an interesting, actually, because vote is a word, is a verb, but then go is a verb as well. So why do we use both? Go vote. It does seem strange to use. I guess that's quite
specifically because it's somewhere you have to go to specifically. Like we say go shopping. Like you can just say I'm shopping. But we say go shopping because it involves it's an errand. We use go for that for a lot of different things. Like we don't say I'm mailing this. We say I'll go to the post office. It's just that's actually shows up in a lot of languages, not just English.
Yeah, although I do think that's slightly American. In British English, I think we would say, "Did you vote?" You know, or "I voted." We wouldn't say "go vote."
Well, I don't think go.
We could say "go to vote."
Super. It's not common. Necessarily super common, but it's that same construct that you see a lot in English with the go and do something, as opposed to just saying the thing. Because you absolutely can say let's vote, right? But you will sometimes hear people say let's go vote or whatever.
I would say let's go and vote.
Or and again, that's the same thing. It's the same. It's the same construct. There's like go do this, go whatever.
So in a way, I think saying go vote is kind of, it's like a contraction. You're missing out a word that's kind of obvious, even though it grammatically needs to be there.
I'm not sure. I'd have to think about it. It is a very specific construct where you say go and do or go do something. Specifically, let's see. Of those three, go voted isn't correct, but go vote or will go vote is fine. Both of them are okay if you're talking about, say, later today. I would say tomorrow. Today it happens to be the election day in the United States, so people could say, well, I go vote every year. Then you're talking about it in the simple, like you're not talking about a specific time. But if you're going to say, this evening, I will go vote or I'll go vote later, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
So I'm in the UK, so I'm not voting today. Tony, you are American, but you are in Canada, so
Yes.
presumably you're not voting today either.
I have to send
or-
in a
Right.
ballot by mail or fax or something like that. So I
Okay.
did it before. Doing it today.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've already voted.
I have already voted. Yes, but I have voted. Yeah.
So I don't know if we've got anyone watching in America. Let us know if you are in the US, and let us know if you're voting. That'd be great. So yeah, the past tense would be I voted or I went to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Go vote or will. Yeah, and so it's sort of past, present, future. What AJ is asking about. But anyway, I hope that's helpful. Let's see. Question here from Gabby. She says, I'm struggling with my s and z sounds. How can I improve them? So what do we always say about pronunciation?
Pronunciation is physical.
It's a physical thing. So you need to think about what is the difference physically between these two sounds. And there is only one little difference between these two. These are what is called a consonant pair. So the difference is that one is voiced and one is not voiced. So if I say s, it's not voiced, it's just purely made by the air coming through my teeth. But z, it is voiced, so I'm using my vocal cords. So z, z, s. My mouth shape is the same. My tongue, my lips are all doing the same thing. But the difference is z is voiced and s is not voiced. Hope that's helpful. And like I said, if you're ever having any problems with pronunciation, think about what you're doing with your mouth, your lips, your tongue, your teeth, and try to think about whether that's the right thing to be doing. Yeah, hope that's helpful. Let's see. Got quite a long comment here from Frank. It says, hi, excellent teachers. I'm Frank Gonzalez from Venezuela. What would be the correct answer in this sentence? Frank is married. Frank is married.
Anna, to or with. So is Frank is married to Anna or Frank is married with Anna? And that's definitely a to. Yeah, and then again, this is just the collocation. In English, you're married to someone. If it's just the verb, you marry someone. So Frank married Anna is a verb. That's an acceptable sentence. But is married, you use to. Is married to Anna.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's interesting. That is interesting. So if you don't use is, because married is both. Well, to marry is a verb, but then married, it could be the past tense of the verb, but it can also be the adjective form.
And this is actually almost always true, right? Like you can use, specifically, it's not the past tense form, it's the past participle form, which is often the same, right? It's the ed or more, if it's got more of an n variant, then it's that one. It's always can be used as an adjective. It just means it has had this done to it. It's a hammered.
And you know that it's being used. Yeah, and the way we know that it's being used as an adjective is if it has the verb to be before it. So in this case, is married.
Or, I mean, it doesn't have to have the verb before it. It can be used later on in the sentence. He is a married man, for instance, right? Or whatever. I was talking to a married man. But the way you can tell it's not a verb is it doesn't have in front of it. Because anything with the past participle is going to have have in front of it if it's a verb. If it's the past simple form, it won't have any verb. It will be the verb, right? It can't have.
Yeah, but you could. Well, you could say he did marry her. Oh no, because then that's
not the past simple. If it's the past simple form,
it is past simple, but you're making it with the auxiliary verb instead of changing the form of the verb.
If it's the past simple form, the ed form, then it can't have do in front of it, right? Because do forces the next verb into its base form, right? Yeah, so if it has if it is the verb, it doesn't have anything else in another verb in front of it, and it's in that form, and it's a past simple. If it has have in front of it, it's a perfect, either have or had, past perfect, or will have. It's one of the perfects. But if it doesn't, then it's an adjective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, and this is very much what our course Inside English is all about.
Yes.
Looking at auxiliary verbs and things like that. I think what we just said in that question may have seemed a little bit complicated. But in the course, we really do go through all of that and how auxiliary verbs work and when we change the form of the main verb. Because especially with the present, with the simple tenses, present and past simple, they've got some things that are a little bit strange about them. Really, every tense has something uniquely strange about it. But what we're trying to do in the course is not ignore, but we're not trying to say, okay, this is what's strange about this tense. We're trying to say this is what is consistent about all the tenses, because sometimes it feels like they're all completely different and really complicated, and there's lots of exceptions and lots of irregular verbs, and it's really complicated and doesn't make sense. But actually, there is a logic behind it, and I feel like when we teach English, or in a lot of the textbooks that I've used in the past, they focus too much on the irregularities and not enough on the logic and the core structures. So that's what we're trying to get at. That's what the course is all about. So yeah. Okay. So let's see. So we've got some follow-up points here. Taki says there is no option but to study. There's no option except studying here, except there will be preposition which needs a noun or noun equivalent as an object. Is it
yes?
correct?
So if the sentence was there is no option except studying, then yes, except will be a preposition, and therefore it would need a noun. So yes, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure about this question. It says, how do I make the selecting casual verbs? So casual verbs.
Causal.
Oh,
verbs.
sorry. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, my screen.
So causal verbs are like instead of I washed my car, I made my brother wash my car. That's the causal verbs, like made or make or get or let, right?
Right.
I'm not sure what a selecting causal verb is, though.
Yeah, so this is where we need an example. Rio, could you give us an example, and we'll come back to that question later on. Yeah. So let's see. We've already talked about what's the odd. Let's see. My brother's here again. He says,
oh, okay, that makes sense. Susanta, oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go on. What?
So Susanta just said maybe how to select. That makes maybe more sense. How, like, instead of how to identify, well, I don't know, the selecting causal verbs? I don't know. If the question is how do you select your causal verbs, they have kind of a precedent, all right, not kind of a precedent, an order of how intense they are. So like to let doesn't mean you're forcing, it just means you're kind of allowing, but you're still getting, someone else to do it. You're causing it, even though you're just giving permission. Whereas on the opposite side, make or force, I made my brother wash the car is totally, a lot stronger than I let my brother wash my car. And then you've got ones in between, in the middle, right? Like get someone to do something means you're going to have them, or have someone do something kind of means you're going to order them to do it as if they're they're one of your employees or something like that. Or, convince, I convinced him to do it, or I got him to do it, something like that. Means you're trying to get them to do it, but you're not forcing them. So they have a scale from let up through, get to have, to make. Yeah.
So is it just those four? Let, make, have, and get?
No, there's a bunch of others. There's 5 categories. I can't remember what the 5th category is, but I think it's similar. Let, get, have, make, But there's loads of others that you could talk about as being causal. Depends on how they're used. Tell. I told my brother to wash the car. Like, it becomes a little fuzzy. Like, there are the specific causal verbs, and then there's plenty of others that you can use as causal verbs. Force is an example, and make even. You can make a car, or you can make someone do something. It doesn't have to be a causal verb, but it can be used as a causal verb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've got lots of comments, but mostly just saying hello, and this is cool. People saying they're enjoying the live stream, but not so many questions. I'm not down to the end of the comments yet, though. So let me.
We've got several more
going. Okay, which ones are you?
Well, I think we skipped one maybe way up at the beginning, but I'm not sure if I have a good answer to it. Do you have the one way up by Susanta's questions from Pipe Lipe? I'm going to guess.
Let me find. I'll find it.
So I'll just read it while we're looking for it. Pipe Lipe said, "Hi, could you tell me examples of would, could, should used as lexical verbs?" So would, could, and should are auxiliary verbs. They're specifically modals that they modify how really much you mean when you say a verb. And lexical verbs are kind of the opposite of that. Again, lexical verb is not a verb, a term I would use, because it's very specific and it refers to something that is not necessarily broadly understood across like teaching languages. We would call them main verbs. And so would, could, and should aren't used as main verbs. You can kind of use would as a main verb. There's a really archaic, it's a form of wish. Like, I would that I could help you. But that's really archaic. That's quite archaic. Nobody says that. You just sometimes will hear it in old poetry. Or in fantasy video games. So those, like, if I'm understanding, like, again, lexical, we don't really like, we talked about this, we don't really like highly specific terminology that's only used in certain groups or disciplines or within certain textbooks. We prefer to talk about what a word means as opposed to giving it using a specific terminology for it. So again, like if what you mean here is main verbs, like the different kinds of lexical verbs, but they're all main verbs, then would, could, and should aren't main verbs.
Yeah, because would, could, and should are all auxiliary verbs.
Specifically modals,
Yeah, modal auxiliary verbs. So therefore, by definition, they're not lexical verbs. Is that right?
That's yes. So unless you have a different, and again, this is why I wouldn't use this term, is there might be different uses of the term lexical verb, right?
Yeah. Okay, so Balbal has a question here. There are monkey or there are monkeys. Are both sentences available? What is the difference? Well, I'm not sure what the context is here, but are, because monkeys is plural, so are, and are is the verb to be that goes with the plural. So there are monkeys. So they are monkeys. They are plural as well.
So this is a concept called agreement, which is when you use a bunch of plurals, you have to match them up. Your plurals are supposed to match up with plurals. There are, I wouldn't call it an exception, but it's widely taught as an exception. But generally speaking, if you're using a plural pronoun and a plural noun, a plural verb, then you should be using a plural noun to go with it, unless there's a really specific reason that you aren't doing that, right?
Yeah. Okay, now I've got a question here from Galaxy Brawl Stars. He says, how do you say, and then the ash symbol, please help me. Now, this is a thing that keeps coming up because there's different ways to say it. And one of the ways this symbol is used is in the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet. And when it's used in the International Phonetic Alphabet, it's used to represent the sound ah. So ah. But it's also used in, I think, Norwegian and Dutch alphabets where it's used in a different way.
It's also from Latin, which is where all of these alphabets come from, and it is used very differently in Latin than it was in any of these newer ones.
Yeah. So the way that it's used in, it's just a letter. It doesn't actually make a sound. But when it's part of an alphabet, it's used to represent a sound.
Yes.
And unfortunately, this symbol is used in different alphabets. So it's used in different ways in different alphabets. When we are using it, we're always talking about the International Phonetic Alphabet, because that's what not this channel is all about, but this channel is all about learning English, and phonetics is one tool that we use. So we're using it in the context of IPA.
Yes.
I know that we've got a lot of viewers because of this symbol, because Elon Musk named his baby with this symbol, and we have a video that ranks quite highly for this letter, and so we got a lot of viewers because of that. And I believe that it's used a lot as well in the names of characters in computer games and things. Just judging by the comments that I've seen.
Yes. And a lot of that is because it's very common in Latin. Like Caesar has this letter in it, and it's pronounced dramatically differently from how this symbol is used in the IPA or in some other modern languages.
Yeah, so if you're wondering how to pronounce the name of a character that has this name in, then you might need to look at the sort of origin of that character. If it's Norse, or it's unlikely to be having their name written in IPA.
Yes.
So it's probably not ah.
Can you go ahead? That's the ah in IPA. So it's used to refer to the English sound ah. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. When this letter is in IPA, it's ah.
So it's used to represent the English sound ah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I just want to say
it's not the English sound. It's not the English sound, because remember, phonetics is not just about English.
Right.
This is this is IPA, which is International Phonetic Alphabet. So, which is a way that you can write down the exact, or a more accurate way of writing down the actual pronunciation of a word in any language. It just so happens that there are 44 different symbols that we use in English, or 44 different sounds that we use in English, and this is one of them. But there are more sounds in IPA, some of which we don't use in English, that are used in other languages. And it gets very, very complicated. We stick to what we think is helpful for people learning English and try not to get too sucked into that. But yeah. So yeah, I hope, this is one. I don't know how to say it. Can you quickly tell me how to say it? Yeah, so hopefully, I don't think, I'm not sure that you're asking the right person. Within IPA, it's pronounced ah, but you might need to check that it depends on the context. Okay. He may have gone actually already. He says got to go by. Oh well. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. So yeah, lots of talk about the a.
We do have a few more questions. Do you see the one from Ali Jalali?
Let's see, whereabouts are we? Oh yeah. What's the difference between would have, should have, and I could have? I would have, I should have, I could have. Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
So these are these same modal verbs from before, right? Specifically with have, actually this is pretty straightforward. Would have, you're talking about something that didn't, well, all three of these, you're talking about something that didn't happen. Would have means like you would make a different decision if you could go back. Should have means you know what the right decision was. Could have just means that was possible to do. So I could have gone to a different university. That was a possibility. If I say I should have studied harder, that's something you know what the right thing to do was. Whereas I would have, like, if I could go back in time, I would have gone to a different university, means if I could change it, I would. Like, I would do things differently now. Is that simple enough?
Yeah, I think so. Yep. Okay, Jean-Luc says, hello, what's the subject? Well, so Jean-Luc, watching on Facebook, in these sessions, we don't really have a subject. We just start and we just answer people's questions. We've been doing it mostly over on YouTube up until now for almost 6 months. Well, no, I think more than 6 months we've been doing it now. And yeah, it's been going well. We do it as often as we can. We've been doing it every week for the last 6 months, but we may not be doing it every week for the next couple of months, but we'll do it as often as we can. And yeah, we don't normally have a subject. We'd like to just try to be here to answer as many questions as we can. I hope in the future we can do some other types of program where maybe we do have more of a structure. I think also if it grows and becomes and we start getting hundreds and thousands of people watching, and the comments might get a bit crazy, and we might have to start to focus in on a particular subject each time. So maybe we will do that in the future. But for now, these sessions are just about hanging out, really, and being here to answer your questions, whatever they may be. So yeah, we don't really prepare much in advance. We just it's open. The floor is open. So
yes,
the questions
taking
coming
all
in.
the questions.
AJ says, Tony, what are you currently reading? Are you currently reading anything interesting?
Well, yes, I am actually. This month, the fourth book of the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson is coming out, so I'm doing a reread of the series. I'm currently on Oathbringer, the third book. So the fourth book comes out, I think, the 17th. I'm very excited about it. So I'm eagerly awaiting that and reading the book before it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Quick question. Well, not really a question, just a comment here from Frong. I hope I'm saying that right. It says, hi there. It's been a while since I attended the club hangouts live. I hope you're both doing well. Yeah, I remember. I think I remember seeing you from when we first started doing it. So yeah, you're very welcome back. We are doing well. It's been good. So question here from Balbal. The word racist is an adjective. So can I use they are racist instead of they are racists?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so,
and in fact, this is kind of backwards. Racists is a noun because racist is an adjective. You can do this sometimes with an adjective. You can just kind of throw out make it plural, and it becomes a noun for the people who fit this. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. But yeah, racist is an adjective first. Racists is a noun because of that. Yeah.
So if you wanted to say that in the singular, you would have to say they. Well, not it wouldn't be they. You would say
he is racist.
He is, or he is a racist. If
that person is. Well, no, you can say racist. That person is racist. You're describing them as racist. In the same way, you can say, I know this really racist person. You can use it as an adjective, but you can also use it as a noun. So they not only, so you can say, I know this guy who is racist, is the same as saying, I know this guy who is a racist. But in one, you're using it as an adjective. In another, you're using it as a noun. So yes, it is both an adjective and a noun.
Okay.
I think we missed a question from number 1. Can you see that one? Just up above this one.
This one?
Yes.
How many ways in English can we describe future actions? Well,
this is an excellent question, and it's something that we are going to put in a lot. We haven't written that module yet for Inside English, but it's going to be a whole module in Inside English, is the different ways to talk about future actions. And because this is definitely one of the kind of quirks to English. Fortunately, it's kind of in our favor because it's a little bit easier. rather than hard. You could describe it as more complicated, but I think it's a bit easier. Do you want to take this one, Colin, or do you want?
Well, yeah.
To
So I was just yeah. So to start with, you got the future tenses: future
Yes.
simple, future continuous, future perfect. But you can also use tags to talk about the future. So you can actually say, when we talk about present simple, that's you can use that to talk about something that happens regularly. So you could say the train leaves tonight. That's present simple, but you're using it to talk about the future, tonight. Same with present continuous. You could say the train is leaving tonight. So again, you can use present tenses to talk about the future if you use the right tags and things. So how many ways can we describe the future action? Well, I mean it's a different. I can't really think how many are there, and it's not. I don't think that's really what you want to know.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just talking about tenses, it would be 6, right? The 4 possible future tenses plus present simple and present continuous. I don't think you'd use present perfect continuous. But again, that's not really the. And again, we sometimes even use the past tense to talk about actions that haven't happened yet if they're happening in a narrative sort of a fashion. So there's a lot of different ways, but the main would be, I would say, using a future tense or the present simple or the present.
And you could use modal verbs if it's a possibility of something happening in the future, but not necessarily. So like, I would like to go to the cinema, but I'm not sure that I can because I have to go to visit my grandma or whatever.
Right. So generally speaking, you can use almost anything to talk about the future in English. It's very flexible. We just anything that you can do to indicate that you're talking about the future. That said, you probably want to stick to the main ways, which are present simple, present continuous, and future simple. But yeah, there's a lot of ways you can talk about the future.
And then once you've mastered that, sort of then look into modal verbs when you want to talk about possibility and obligation and stuff like that. But I mean, yeah, if you're looking, I don't think you're looking for a number. 7 ways of doing it. No, that's not the question really. And it's difficult to sort of give examples of every different way because there's so many.
Yes.
And so we've given a few. But yeah, it's what you're getting at is you can talk about the future in lots of different ways. That's the best. That's the best answer. Although it's
that's
not
definitely
really
how I'd answer. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So let me. Hello, Colin. Question: when we see the words that, there, and there,
I think it's just supposed to be there and there.
Yeah, the same transcription. Yeah, so these words are what we call homophones, meaning it's 2 different words, but they are pronounced in exactly the same way.
And there's actually a third one in this particular group. They apostrophe are e.
Yes. So the contraction of they are there. That's their house. Over there is their house. So they're living.
Yes. So your question is like, is it possible to have different words have the same transcription? Absolutely. In English, this whole there, and there spelled 3 different ways, 3 totally different words is a very common place that you will see mistakes in writing, but you don't see what it seems like you're worried about is like when people are speaking, how can you know which one they're saying? Because these are all very different in context. There is a possessive pronoun, so it's always going to come before like some kind of a nounish thing, like that's their problem or
their house.
That's their house, right? There is a demonstrative pronoun, so it's going to be it's going to be something you're kind of pointing at, even if you're not exactly like
it's
the house is over there. Yeah, exactly. And they are is a contraction for either the state of being verb, be, or a continuous. So like they're running really fast, or they're tired,
Or it could be an adjective. They're happy. They are happy.
Right. Yeah. If it's
They're
a
happy.
contraction between they and just the verb, they are, like be.
Yeah.
So they are happy, they are tired, or they are running. Right. So in context, these are all very, very different words. So
Yeah.
it's not too difficult to tell them apart. But yes, it does show up a lot in people's writing or typing or whatever. You see these words misused even by native English speakers. So it's
And
not something you should,
misspelled.
yeah, or misspelled, yeah, constantly, just because they are very easy to mess up.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So here's an.
Phone has had a question.
Oh yeah. Okay. We'll jump to that one.
Yeah.
Is that the one? I've learned the two words deceptive and deceptively. Can you give me useful collocations to go with them? Okay.
So with deceptive, you usually hear this either with the action or a person. So you say, he's a really deceptive person, or you could say that's a deceptive argument, right? Or something like that, or that speech was really deceptive. Right, so you're talking about the action that was used. So like someone goes up and really friendly, you say, they're deceptively friendly, which means you think that action is a deceit. It's a fake, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, actions or people, I think, usually.
Yeah. So deceptive actions, or like you said, an argument could be deceptive, or
yeah, I mean any kind of like someone, he smiled deceptively, he helped me deceptively, right? Like any kind of action that someone could use to trick you or to fool you you can say deceptively. Deceptively obviously is an adverb that's going to go with an action. Deceptive can go with an action or a person.
You could also describe an image or a scene as deceptive
yes.
if it looks like something but it's actually something else, or there's something hidden, maybe.
Or a situation, right? Like you say, I walked into the room and it was deceptively quiet. Well, maybe they had been arguing a moment before, but when you walked in, everyone went quiet, right? So if something is not what it first appears, you'll often see the word deceptive or deceptively, like a deceptive calm, or deceptively quiet or whatever, something like that. Yeah, those are really interesting words. They're kind of fun ones to use. They're used a lot in things that are essentially, metaphors or kind of idiomatic. Not idiomatic, but when you're speaking more poetically, not just, that guy lied in his speech, but, he was very deceptive in his speech.
And it's interesting here as well. So deceptive is the adjective and deceptively is the adverb. So, and you can often do this. You can often just add ly to an adjective and it becomes an adverb. So the difference being that deceptive would describe a thing. So you could describe a person. He is deceptive, but the deceptively describes or change or adds to the meaning of a verb. So he talked deceptively. Deceptively there is describing the verb talk. But he was deceptive, then you're saying that you're describing the person. So for another example would be like dark. Dark is an adjective, but you can say darkly. I guess that's a more difficult.
Through a scanner darkly or something like that.
Yeah, but darkly,
I can only see darkly or dimly.
Yeah. So this is one of the ways that English has consistent rules that you can almost make up words and people will understand what you mean.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just because these words are, or these rules are so common and consistent. Yeah.
So I don't want us to miss the question from Pavel Stepanovich.
Yes. I was looking at that one. So hello, Colin. How do you pronounce the past tense form of finish plus it in a sentence? I haven't finished it yet. Thank you and greetings from Chile.
This is a great question for pronunciation. Yeah.
Finished it. Finished it. So I guess what you're getting at here is the way that the two finish, because the past tense ed form can be pronounced in 3 different ways, and none of them are ed like you would think. None of them, So it's and finish. So finish with an ed, finished. It sounds like it's got a t on the end. Finished. So and then that can kind of merge in with it. So finished it.
So you will hear, depending on how fast someone is saying this or what their accent is, you will hear it as like 2 separate words. Finish it or finish tit, or finished it or finish tit. And so it's not going to be either of those. It's really going to be something kind of in between, softened, right? But yes, that is a good question, because that is a bit of an odd pronunciation, and it's not an exception, but it's an example where the whole rule of, in English, each word has its own accent kind of breaks down. Like, this is a good example where that it kind of gets sucked into the word finished, just because of the way it ends. It just kind of sounds better to say it as one word. I haven't finished it yet.
Yeah. And I was saying earlier how every tense has something strange about it, and one of the things that is strange about the past simple tense is the pronunciation of regular verbs, as I was saying. And that's one of the things that we do get into a little bit in the Inside English course, in the past simple module. Okay, so
Dian, just a couple down from that, Dian Fadila has this question. I'm not sure we can answer it without an example. Could you explain grammar with phrases? So if you're just talking about the grammar of phrases or the different kinds of phrases, I think we might need more information to answer this question. Phrases are just pieces of sentences that couldn't be a sentence on their own, right? Like going to town is a phrase, but that couldn't be a sentence. So it's just a phrase, not a clause or something like that.
Yeah.
So if you have an example, go ahead and give it to us, and maybe we can give you some more information.
Yeah. In the meantime, we'll just do this question from Susanta. She says, we say will, going to, and present simple, and sometimes modals to indicate the future. Okay, so that's referring back to the different ways to talk about the future.
Yes, those are the main ones. I agree.
Yeah. So it's interesting that she brings up the point. You've got will and going to, which are both auxiliary verbs used in all of the future tenses. Can use either will or going to as their auxiliary verb. They've got slightly different meanings, but so that's another interesting one. Okay. Jean-Luc says, okay, so what's the best way to learn English? I think actually there is no best way. The question is, what is the best? You need to find out what is the best way for you to learn English, because everybody is different. And this is why I don't like it when I see people online selling like courses or plans where they say, oh, this is the best way. This is secret. Some sort of secret. It's all just sales talk. It might work for some people, but it won't work for everyone. Everyone's brain works in different ways. Everyone, learns in different ways. So, you need to find what works for you. And this is why. Go on.
I will say that though there is no one best way, there is, I think, one thing that you can't do without, and that is you have to be able to actually use your English. You can't just learn things from a book. You have to actually go out and speak to people and practice your English. This is just an important part of how our brains learn language, as opposed to some other things. You can learn a lot of things just by looking at it, but language you have to actually go out and use. So the best way to do that is find native speakers to talk to, whether that's on forums or over audio chat in your favorite game, or going out to the tourist places in wherever you are and finding tourists, or going to visit an English-speaking country. But if you aren't practicing or finding people that you can talk to, then it doesn't matter if you have some kind of great technique. Your brain isn't really going to absorb it.
Yeah. And actually, he follows up here with, and what's the best, how to learn English with movies? Well, yeah, watching movies is a good way to learn English, to expose yourself to the language. Whether you use the subtitles as well, or choose not to, depending on where you're at, in your what your level of listening skills is. I mean, how to learn English with movies?
So, going back to what I was saying before, again, if all you're doing is watching, you're not practicing. You are practicing. Like if you slowly try to listen to the words instead of just reading them, that's good. But find a way to go out and then talk to people about your movies that you're watching. Maybe go on an English language forum and discuss the movies that you've seen with other people in English, or something. But don't like learning English is a great way, or watching movies or watching television shows is a great way to practice your listening. But in order for your brain to really get it, you've got to start speaking and using the language on your own. And so you've got to go out and find people to talk to.
Yeah. Okay, so quick question here about British and American English. Why are the words such as audio pronounced differently in British and American? So how do you say audio?
Audio.
Audio. I say audio, you say audio. Yeah.
No, I mean it's audio. It's not It's audio.
It's not, but it's not or. It's not audio.
Audio, yeah. I mean, yeah.
No, it's different. It's different.
Okay. But the way you were saying it wasn't right either. Not American.
No, the way I was. That's because I don't do a very good American accent, but.
Okay. Because there is that same draw down that you're using. It's just we're not maybe drawing it down as far. Audio. But
yeah, I mean the question is, why are some words pronounced differently in British English and American English? Well, it's mostly just accent, and there are some sounds that are affected by the accent more than others. So words that have that sound in them more prominently will be affected by that. It will sound more different in British and American English. And generally speaking, American English is a little bit more phonetic. I mean, that's one of the problems with English in general, both British and American, is that it's not very phonetic. But American English is a little more phonetic.
A little bit more, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the spelling is a little bit more phonetic as well.
Yeah.
I want to, since we're talking about accent, and then Pavel Stefanovic also is just asked a question about idioms and slang. And I think that probably the best example for how to do this that I can think of is exactly what Susanta does. Every week, Susanta shows up with this list of idioms or example words or things that have piqued their interest while they're clearly watching news and this kind of stuff. So writing down the list of things that you didn't understand, or immediately Googling them, or showing up and asking here in a situation like this, that's a really good way to do that. Idioms and slang are hard to pick up immediately. And so they just somewhat just takes practice and asking about it. Because sometimes you can't really look up an idiom. So that's why I really enjoy Susanta being here asking these questions, because then everybody is getting a little bit more information about idioms. It's hard to just kind of go through a list because there's just too many of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. We've got any other good questions?
Let's see. Well, I think we did.
Yeah, we got another. Well, Susanta, while you're talking about Susanta, she's got a good one about in between. How does in between and between differ? So what's the difference between in between and between? In
between is used in specific situations, like when you're talking about yourself, like you are in between two arguing people, for instance. But again, I think a big part of it, we talked about this before with the difference between under and below. this is just one of those examples where this has cropped up in so many different places. Some of them are metaphors that it's hard to specify exactly. It's just going to be a collocation. Like with certain situations, you would use in between, and in others, you'd use between. That don't mean something different necessarily.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, thank you for watching today. I think we've been just over an hour, so I think we're going to have to draw it to a close for this week. We may be back next week. We may not be. Let me just bring up this web page. If you want to, the best way to check is to check englishlanguageclub.co.uk/live. If we have planned another session, it should appear there. If not, then it would just be a playlist of the ones we've done in the past.
Yes.
So yeah, hopefully we will be back next week. Not 100% sure if we will be. Hopefully we'll have some more to announce about the course. But yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Yes.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.